welcome everyone to the September 21st, 2022 meeting of the Surrey Police Board. The Surrey Police Board recognizes that our work takes place on ancestral, traditional, and unceded territories of the Osage peoples. Melissa, I will pass it to you.
Thanks, Director Sutter. So as the chair is not present at the meeting under section 25(2) of the Act, if the mayor is absent or unable to act, the board must select from amongst themselves a chair to preside at the meeting. So I would ask a board member to make a motion to elect a chair, please.
I move that we have Jesse Sutter act as chair.
Second. Thank you, Director Sutter.
I would like to start today by passing it to Chief Chappell, who can say a few words about the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation.
Good afternoon, everyone. As many of you know, my name is Harley Chappell. I'm the elected chief of Samoan First Nation. You know, as I was asked to speak on the Day for Truth and Reconciliation, September 30th, you know, last year I really had the feeling of it was a time of mourning, and the people were mourning some of the loss and news that we'd heard close to that time. This year, I'm hoping that we can get out and educate ourselves as individuals, educate ourselves as business owners, as leaders, as followers, and to be able to spend our time within the Indigenous communities and hopefully find the time to attend different events and really open your mind and your heart to the words that communities have to share, that leaderships have to share. It's a very important day for us. It's a day where we're acknowledged and we are given the opportunity to share our worldview and our perspective. And as well as that, some of the process and ways we can move forward as a community to build reconciliation into our everyday lives. So I just really hope that you take the time. You take the time as an individual or as a professional to come out and hear and participate. I always think of one of the phrases one of our late elders used to share. Sometimes your presence is all that you can give in these times. Sometimes just your support, your being and standing with communities, standing with nations. It shows the nations the importance of community, of gathering, and understanding that this is an ongoing process. And we cannot do this all by ourselves. So we need the support of our loved ones and the ones that stand with us and stand beside us. You know, I could hear the words of Chief Marilyn Gabriel from Mainland First Nation. She says, "We don't want to hand out, we want to hand up." So it really is that opportunity for all of you online here to come and just share your presence. Open your mind, open your heart to how do we work together in building reconciliation in this province, in this country, in this municipality. You know, I just encourage you and implore you to take that time however you can. And even if you can't take that time, take the time to acknowledge the day, take the time to acknowledge whose traditional territory you live in and who that may be and how you can support those people. My suggestion is always to have a look at the TRC calls to action. We all can find ourselves somewhere in there and really being able to unravel that very large document. But there are the calls to action that would be a good starting point. And for Mileland, reconciliation is a two-way street. We, as many of Indigenous communities, we've been put into our modern day systems. And the opportunity on that day is to take a step back and see the world through a different lens, see the world from your neighbors and your friends as Indigenous communities. And I'm not going to take up too much more. I just hope you take the time on that day on September 30th. I know we have a large event going in South Surrey, White Rock, starting at Grand Chief Bernard Charles Plaza at 1 o'clock, and we'll be doing a procession down to City Park. So I really hope to see you there, and I hope to have your support on that day. Thank you all for being here. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Chappell. And look forward to everyone that's able to join you. Thank you for your invitation to the event on the 30th. Next, I would like to pass it to Chief Lipinski. If you could say, we just want to say a few words about the shooting death of Officer Hung that took place in Toronto.
Yeah, thanks very much, Madam Chair. I just want to recognize Constable Hong from the Toronto Police Service, who tragically passed away 9 days ago. Funeral was today. It was attended by thousands, and it reminds all of us about the dangers of policing, and it also causes the public to reflect on what police officers mean to society. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Lipinski. Our thoughts and prayers are with Constable Hong's family during this very, very difficult time. And thank you for your comments. So next, I'm just going to move to the agenda. We could have a motion to adopt the agenda for today's meeting. Thank you, Madam. Shady, all in favor? Okay, the agenda is adopted. And then also a motion to adopt the minutes for our July 6th, 2022 meeting. Director Kawana, thank you. Director Hill, all in favor? Thank you. The minutes are adopted. We have no delegations, so I will pass it back to Chief Lipinski to start us off with the SPS ITS Systems Progress Report.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. As we know, IT is such an important element in policing, and we had to start to build our systems from the ground up. Deputy Chief Matsumoto is here today to give a verbal update on how that is going. So over to you, Todd.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon to everyone. I'm here to bring you the SPS IT Systems Progress Update. I think the last time I did an update on IT was back in April. There has been significant progress since April, which is, I think, good news for us. As the Chief said, this is a difficult task for the IT team. It's building a brand new police department with all of the modern connectivity and all the modern functionality that's needed to happen from the ground up. As I've said before, there really are four main critical systems that we are focusing on right now. There will be many, many other systems and platforms that we will have to bring online, and some of that work is already happening in the background, but the focus right now is on the four main systems, and that's establishing the data center, that's establishing our SP, so standing for Surrey Police Prime Virtual Jurisdiction. That's the prime environment that we will eventually be working in. That is establishing our workforce management tool, so that's the scheduler that has to schedule everybody's work and also talk to the payroll system to make sure that everybody is paid on time, and the data analytical tools. So those are the four that we've identified as critical to this. So I'll just run through very briefly some of the milestones on those four systems. So on the data center, the report talks about 75% of the migration over to the data center. So the data center is built, it's been tested. We are now moving all of our staff over to that system. Actually, it's probably more about 80% or closer to 80% since this report was written. So well underway, in fact, almost completed, and that's a large milestone in that respect as well. For Prime, I'm very pleased with the way the Prime team and the results that the Prime team has attained so far. So there's a lot of sort of tentacles with the Prime build. Right now they're focusing on the workflows, templates, and all of the functionality that needs to happen around the system essentially, and allowing Surrey police members to begin working in the SP Prime environment. But some of the other streams of Prime include the mobile workstations, so the computers that are going to be going into cars and all of the connectivity between the cars and the Prime server. That's being worked on as well. We do have temporary access to Browse Query. That is a big milestone for us. That allows us to select teams within the Surrey Police Service. That would be mostly our departmental security team, our recruiting teams, and our temporary recruiting teams to be able to use the Browse Query function of Prime to do some of the preliminary work of new applicants coming into the Surrey Police. With respect to the workforce application, I believe the last time we talked about this in April, it was still in the procurement process. The procurement process is completed, a vendor has been selected, and in fact, the application tool has been installed into our data center,
and a test area for the project team to work on has been established. So they are currently now working on loading people into the system. Again, it's a test system right now. They're working on the connection with PeopleSoft, which is the payroll system that the city that we're leveraging in Surrey Police. So that work is well underway. The last piece is a data analytical tool. So that is still in procurement. So careful what I have to say about it, but it's nearing the end of the procurement phase, which is good news. And that's right on track to where we need it to be as to this kind of date. So more to come on the data analytical tool when we get past into that post-procurement phase. And open to questions. That's it for the progress report. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Matsumoto. I will go to Director Broussard.
Thanks, and thank you for your report. I just have one question. It's on the workforce management system. Is there another agency that is using the system that we are going to implement, or is this going to be like a new build?
So there are three local police agencies in the Mainland that use this current system, and a large agency in Alberta that uses the same system. We have done sort of canvassing from these agencies, and we've learned that the agency in Alberta that has the system has it fully integrated, and we've established contact with some of their teams, and we're working closely with trying to understand the nuances, the challenges, what worked, what didn't work as they stood up their systems.
Great, thank you.
Dr. Modell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick question, Deputy Chief Matsumoto. On the data analytic tool, you're just entering the final stages of that. Do you have an estimated time frame when that would be expected to be finished?
Yes, we're looking at the end of October for vendor to be selected, contracts drawn up, and work to be started on that.
Seeing no other questions, thank you again, Deputy Chief Matsumoto, for your report, and the report is received for information. I'll pass it back to you, Chief, for the next report, which is the SPS Indigenous Engagement Plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll take you back to last year. We started talking about the 2022 strategic plan. In that plan was for us to develop a Indigenous strategy for 2023. We, of course, have consulted the community on a wider scale pertaining to all things policing in Surrey, and that brought us to the point of the surveys, over 100 interviews, etc. And then we took certain information from that community consultation, and our Indigenous unit then went out and did further consultations. And we found that we can break it down, our plan to break it down into 4 pillars, and that's in your materials: land-based nations, urban population, youth engagement, and Indigenous justice initiatives. There will be recommendations forthcoming that will be global in nature, which is to say that they dovetail into each other, and then there will be specific ones under each one of those titles. There's still a lot of work to be done, and we still need to do some environmental scanning, looking at other agencies and other government initiatives, and putting all that together into a report that I'm hopeful we get it before you either November or December. Of course, implementing these recommendations is phase 2, and that would occur when we are POJ. But I think we're set up very well now. We're on time, and the information is very forthcoming from the community, and I think we'll have some good actionable recommendations for the board later this year. That is my report. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. Does anyone have any questions?
Madam Chair, I do want to recognize Chief Chappell as well, who's been instrumental in helping us not only with the community contacts, but just some insights into policing and the Indigenous community in Surrey. So thank you for that, Chief.
One thing, if I may, Madam Chair, I think on two aspects of land-based nations. When we speak to land-based nations, we are engaging in a larger conversation with both the provincial and federal governments when it comes to our quadpartite agreement that needs to be developed between the federal government, provincial government, Semiahmoo First Nation, and SPS. So that is a very large document that needs to be organized. So that is en route, as well as we are engaging with another local alternative justice initiative from Stalo Nation. We were looking to set up that meeting in late summer, but the facilitator that runs that, she said, no, let's wait until after September and I can get my feet back on the ground. So thank you for the update, Chief. And yes, all the initiatives are well underway. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chappell. And seeing no other questions, the report is received for information. We will move to the next report, which is the JBC September 2022 recruit class report. Chief.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Exciting news on this front. You may recall that we have 14 recruits that finished Block 1 at the JI and are presently deployed in Surrey, and they are presently with an FTO. So just to summarize, Block 1 is 4 months at the Justice Institute of BC. Block 2, which is with the field training officer, is about 4 months. And then they go back for Block 3, which is about 3 months, and then they graduate as a fully functional police officer. So the ones that are in Block 2, the 14, are doing very well. Then we have now another 14 that are at the JIBC, and in your report, I'm pleased to report that 8 of the 14 are female, 6 males, including 3 South Asian, and we have Indigenous there as well. And I think the reflection and the diversity would serve the citizens of Surrey very, very well. And we had an advantage because we had hundreds of applications. So we had no problem recruiting these people. And we are looking forward to next year recruiting a lot more, which is probably in the order of, depending on how many seats we get, but our target would be about 50 to 60. And recognizing that the Justice Institute also has to serve the other municipal agencies in the Lower Mainland. But nonetheless, we are leaning forward on this, and it's a very good news story.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions from the directors? Go ahead, Director Modell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Less of a question and more of a comment. I had the privilege and pleasure, along with Director Caruana, to welcome the new recruits in the ceremony, and Chief Chappell did the brushing. And I have to say a huge kudos to Chief, you and your team. I was so impressed with the candidates and their resumes and the background, and I just want to say, on behalf of myself, and I would like to speak on behalf of the board as well, but I can't. But I have to say how proud I was of you and your team of such outstanding young people. Thank you.
Thank you. The report is received, and the next report is also along the same lines. It's the hiring diversity update report. So go ahead, Chief, for that.
Yes, thank you. I'll take you to the second page of the report, or in your materials is page 15 of 56. And what's important here is the overall diversity statistics of the SPS. And we presently have 19% female, 50% culturally diverse backgrounds, including 6% is Indigenous, 22% is South Asian, and we have the ability to speak 35 languages. I'm quite proud of that. Great recruiting by Deputy Highland and her team. And that data set is very consistent with other large municipalities in the sense of culturally diverse backgrounds. I think is probably even on our end a little bit higher than most. And we're obviously cognizant of the community makeup, and we want to reflect that. And I can say that we are on target. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I have one question tying this report with the last one, actually. Very excited to see such a diverse group in the recruit class. I was just wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how reflective that is of the actual full pool. Are we getting a very diverse pool of candidates that we're choosing from? Is that reflective, or what are we seeing?
Yes, so far, well, first of all, with the recruits, this is brand new SPS members, very diverse. We have hundreds that apply, so we can certainly pick and choose. And sometimes it's very, very difficult to essentially split hairs and who gets in. But we hope these people that we defer come back again, because we've got a lot of good people and we just don't have enough seats. Then for the experienced officers, it's not to that level just because they're experienced officers and looking to come from other agencies, but we do still have applications from diverse backgrounds. And I can tell you most of our police officers, 90% are from BC, but we do have interest from outside BC, and it seems to be picking up, most notably from Ontario.
Seeing no other questions, we can move on to the verbal Chief's updates.
Yes, Madam Chair. I just want to summarize some of our numbers. It's worth repeating. We have 120 police officers on the ground. We're adding another 34 on Monday. As I mentioned, we have 14 that are now out there, recruits with FTOs. We have 14 JI, and we are preparing to hire another 35. In fact, they start on Monday. This is for them to be deployed in Surrey Detachment in November. Recall that the training is 6 weeks. And so we have very, very good momentum. We have a template now, and it's a good rhythm that we have. And really proud of the team and the officers that do the good work on the front line, working alongside our RCMP colleagues. And what I see on the reports on a weekly basis, and I speak for all of the executive leadership team, is very good investigations, and in fact, we have recognition both from our supervisors or the RCMP supervisors. I see some great community engagements, and when they have a little bit of time, which is quite rare given the busyness of Surrey, but they engage in the community. And that is so good. And as you know, I get out a lot myself, and some of these community groups make mention of the constable that came and paid a visit to them at some events in the park, etc. And so that is going along very good. So we know we're hiring the right people and they're doing the right things. So thank you.
That's great to hear. I think hearing the community feedback is always very important, and that's great to hear that they're loving our officers. Director Broussard? Go ahead.
Great, thanks. And thanks, Chief, for the updated numbers. Excited to see 34 more on the street on Monday and another 35 in 2 months. My question is around the JI. If you can refresh my memory on classes for 2023, how many classes are we going to be able to have new recruits in?
The JI runs at the present time 3 classes a year. Their numbers is about 60 a class. This is for all municipal police officers in BC. And so what we would like to do is spread out in that class anywhere from 50 to 60. We could probably go higher, but we also have to be cognizant of the recruiting ecosystem in the lower mainland specifically, to ensure that all other agencies have enough seats to sometimes even replenish those vacancies created by their members, experienced officers going to the SPS. So I keep in touch with all the chiefs and to ensure that they are in good standing as far as their front line is concerned. And it's a little bit of a delicate balance, but it's working well so far. And so having those relationships and then working with the JI and getting as many seats as possible, I think we can achieve our goals of getting some very good numbers for 2023 and the same amount, if not more, for 2024. But that remains to be seen.
Thank you. We'll move now to our committee reports. So I will pass it to Director Mondell to give us the financial update for this quarter.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. So today the Finance Committee presents an update on year-to-date expenditures as of August the 31st for both the SBS operations and, of course, the one-time policing transition project. And yet again, the report is for information only. So the next slide, please. City of Surrey Policing. Just for background information, this slide presents Surrey's 2022 to 2026 financial plan for policing. The city's total budget for 2022 in policing is $194.8 million, of which 72.5 was allocated to SPS, and the remainder was allocated to the city's fleet support services and, of course, the RCMP. Next slide, please. As of August the 31st, year-to-date expenditures were $38.2 million compared to the $47.7 million budgeted. Our year-to-date spend includes $11.1 million contributed to Lower Mainland integrated teams, $77,000 for board remuneration, $24.7 million for employee salaries and benefits, $1.2 million in capital expenditures, and $1.1 for other expenses such as supplies, materials, JIBC training costs for new recruits, telecommunications, and of course outsourced services. So by the end of August, we had a total of 327 employees. 274 were sworn members and 53 civilians. 301 employees were costed to SPS operations. 26 employees were assigned to temporary roles required for the policing transition project. Therefore, their salaries and benefits were allocated to the one-time policing transition project fund. Next slide, please. So this is a one-time policing transition fund, just as a reminder and an update. In addition to SPS annual operating budget, a total of $63.7 million is dedicated for the one-time transition to SPS. Presented here is just as background information. The 2022 budget allocation for the transition project is $5.4 million. The total available funds in 2022 is $33.5 million, which includes $28.1 million unspent and carried forward from 2021, plus the $5.4 million this year. Next slide, please. So as of August the 31st, $5 million was spent out of the $33.5 million available, with $24.5 million remaining for use. So areas of significant expenditures include $4.6 million for IT, which includes capital costs of hardware and other technology-related assets and operating costs, $1.8 for recruitment and assessments, training, and temporary personnel, $1.6 for firearms, personal issue kits, uniforms, and other specialty equipment. And that is our Finance Committee, and we report, and the Finance Committee recommends that we receive the report for information. So it's back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Director Waddell. Do we have any questions? Director Broussard?
Thanks. And this has been asked, and I think I've asked it before, but I'm going to ask it again because I can't remember the answer. Why do we pay into the Lower Mainland integrated teams and we're not part of the teams at this point? Or is that just our portion of this City of Surrey policing budget?
That's a great question, Director Broussard. I'm going to I think I know the answer, but I'm actually going to turn it to the Chief to speak to it, and or whomever he delegates. Thank you.
Yes, thanks very much. It's an accounting practice and arrangement that we have simply with the City of Surrey. And I think Nathan is on this call, but it's a matter of ease of financial accounting for the city. And they asked that we put it under our banner. So that was the answer I was given from the city.
So just to follow up on that, so the RCMP in their budget would have a similar line item.
I don't know what their split would be on that. I'm not sure what their proportion would be. So I'm presuming so, but I'm not clear on it.
Okay, thanks, Chief.
Great. Thank you, Director Waddell, for that report. Next, we will go to information. I will pass it to Edie Granum.
Thank you, Chair Sutter. So there are a number of information items with relation to Brenda Locke filing a service or policy complaint, correspondence from Assistant Deputy Minister Wayne Rideout, correspondence from Benai Brith with respect to police uniforms and accommodating minority hiring. And then the fifth is the Cabro invitation for 2 seats for 2 board members to attend a conference governing in the public interest. So if there's any of those that a board member wishes for me to, or the chief to speak to, we can do that.
Thank you. I don't see any questions. So I think we just receive those for information. And then also the next batch of information as well. If there's any questions on that next batch, you can also on those questions. Otherwise, we can receive for information. Director Broussard?
Thanks. Just on the Cabro conference, how are we going to deal with that? Did you want just directors who are interested to let you know, or would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, I would think if you're interested to maybe let me know via email, and we can determine based on who's attended other conferences who may wish to attend.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Those are received. There's no correspondence, no new business. So on that, our next open meeting of the Surrey Police Board will take place on October 26th, 2002. And if I could get a motion to hold a meeting closed session. Thank you. All in favor? Thank you. And a motion to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, and see you in October.